All right, so welcome everybody to today's meeting. We're gonna focus on the evolution of Black History Month. All right, so with this, we're gonna in this role that we have, we're gonna take you to before 1926, all the way up until 2026. All right, but first, as we get started, we're going to begin with the. We're going to begin with "Lift Every Voice and Sing," and "Lift Every Voice and Sing" is the Black national anthem, and this was written by James Weldon Johnson as a pledge song of unity. All right, lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat and unweary feet, come to the place for which our parents sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading a path through the blood of the Scion. Now from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is fast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us the star on the way, thou who hast by thy mind led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places of God where we met thee, lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
All right, so welcome to the African American Student Union. Some real quick things. So, the African American Student Union at Dutchtown provides a welcoming space for students to connect, celebrate Black culture, and promote positive change within the school and community. The union fosters understanding of the African American community and hosts enrichment activities, service projects, and events like the Black History Trivia Championship, which we're going to have at the end of the month. All right, so please tell everybody that I think Michaela won. She placed last year. It was a big crowd, wasn't it, Michaela? Yeah. Wink, there you go. It was a big crowd. Yeah, she knocked all of the people out. All right, and that's how you guys can join. Y'all already have joined. Y'all know how to email me. All right, so our committee sponsors me, our president Hasina. She's not present today. Our vice president Deanna, she's not present today. Our secretary Maya is not present, but our public relations coordinator Mackenzie and our unofficial spokesperson Michaela is here in the house. All right, and Michaela, you know the announcement that was trying to think the intercom is not working, so that's why I don't have you on the mic this year. You know, so the intercom is down. If not, you know, I'll be putting you to work. All right, but and you guys already know the dues. All right. And again, if you guys want apparel, again, in the Google Classroom, there are T-shirts and hoodies in the Google Classroom for you guys to get. So let's talk about our Sankofa moment. The Sankofa is a term which means to retrieve. All right. And in that moment, so today in history, all right, so on this day, you had the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was officially ratified. All right, and so why does this matter? All right, so this amendment granted Black American men the right to vote. Notice what I said, Black American who? Men. All right, so that means that who didn't get the right to vote? Women. Men. All right, and even to this point, that I guess to make y'all happy, white women, they couldn't vote either. I don't know if it make y'all any happy. Okay. All right. But this was just 5 years up from what? 5 years up from what? Can you take my ethnic studies? When that ethnic studies you were in? That was ethnic studies, wasn't it? Michael? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 5 years up from what? 5 years up from slavery. All right. And so it prohibited states from denying voting rights based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. All right, so this was a major milestone of the Reconstruction era, and it was a key step towards political equality. All right, so this was one of those in your U.S. history class, where they talk about the Civil War amendments, your 13th, your 14th, and 15th amendments. So these amendments were meant in particular for Black people. All right, so all those many barriers like polls. So when this came out, so again it said that you cannot be denied the right to vote based on your race, color, or previous condition of servitude. That means whether or not you were a slave. All right, but barriers like poll taxes. So the poll tax did not have race, color, or previous condition on it. But let's understand that if previously, a little while ago, you had been enslaved, how much money do you think you have to pay a poll tax? Like when it's time to go vote, you got to pay a tax. You're basically living at a subsistence level. You're trying to get some food, some shelter, and some clothes. All right, but now they want to tax you to vote. And then also literacy tests. Again, coming out of slavery, only a small portion of Black people could read. All right, and most of them had been a part of those people who were in the free class of Black people before that. All right, so now we have a point where only a small amount of people, 5 years up from slavery, so most Black people could not pass the literacy test. But just though in the first 30 years out of slavery, know that Black people cut and they don't really talk about this a lot in the history books, but Black people cut the literacy rate in half during the first 30 years out for slavery. And this were a people that were teaching themselves how to read and write. And one of the first things they did was they began to build schools. All right. And so So the 15th Amendment laid the constitutional foundation for the modern civil rights movement and voting rights protection. So when we have this concept called the civil rights movement, to understand when we say civil rights movement, what we're actually talking about are constitutional rights, the rights that are in the Constitution. So when Dr. King comes along 90 years after this, he's talking about constitutional rights of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. So these were the rights in the Constitution, but 90 years later, you're still denying my people these things. So that's why that's the connection there. All right, that you have. All right, so Habar Gani is another Swahili phrase, and that means what's the news? All right, and so as we deal with what's the news, of course, the news this month is Black History Month. And the theme for Black History Month is a century of Black commemorations. A century of Black commemorations. All right, and so a Black History commemoration, I'm sorry. All right, and so a commemoration, what is that? A commemoration, we commemorate something. What are we doing?
Celebrate?
It can be to celebrate, but honor. All right, remember. All right, so this is all the things that we're trying to do within this month. All right, so quickly, got a little video here. They're going to tell us a little bit more about what that means, a little 2-minute video.
February is Black History Month, but what does that actually mean? And why does it matter? In 1926, historian Carter G. Woodson founded Negro History Week. Woodson, who held a PhD from Harvard, recognized something crucial. American schools were systematically erasing Black contributions from history. Textbooks either ignored Black achievement entirely or taught outright lies, that Black people were inferior, slavery was benevolent, and that they had contributed nothing worth remembering. Woodson knew that controlling history meant controlling the future. In 1976, during America's bicentennial, Negro History Week expanded to Black History Month. President Gerald Ford urged Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans. Each year, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, founded by Woodson, selects a theme. This year's theme is A Century of Commemorations, marking 100 years since that first Negro History Week in 1926. As a Catholic, I understand that there was a concerted effort to deprive all people, not just Black people, of this knowledge. Black History Month corrects that deprivation. When we commemorate Black contributions to the world, and especially the U.S., we enrich everyone. This February, join us as we celebrate a century of commemorations and discover stories that inspire, challenge, and transform.
All right, so a century of Black history commemorations. All right, and again, as they said, when we deal with Black History Month and the association that Dr. Carter G. Woodson started, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History still exists today. All right, and they're the ones who come up every year with the theme for Black History Month. So the official theme of Black History Month is a century of Black history communications. And so what we're going to look at today, we're going to look at the evolution of this movement from Negro History Week to a global institution. All right, so this just starts out as a week, but I want you guys to understand. Some people say, well, why a week? Why February? Why all these things here? Why a month? We're going to look at all those things and understand why all that happened during that time. All right. So the spark started back in September 1915. So I want y'all to say September 1915. What's going on? 1950. Right again, anybody know anything significant? 19. But imagine this. This is 1950. This is just 50 years of history. Right? And even to this day, what are some when the black people were enslaved? What are some things they were taught to believe about themselves?
They thought we were less than.
Less than, inferior, right? There was ideas that black people were monkeys, primates, all of these other things, less than human, subhuman, right? So as we deal with the Constitution coming into play, and the Articles of Confederation, when that was put together, understand that black people were considered to be 0% of a human being under the Articles of Confederation. Then, when the Constitution comes, we get the big whoop there. Black people become 3/5 of a human being, 6% of a whole human being. All right. So it wasn't until not the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery, right? But the 14th Amendment comes along, and black people, and that's going to be in 1868, that black people are given in America, seen in their full humanity, right? But before this, though, it was kind of shrouded in mystery. Where did black people come from? If some knew they came from Africa, by this time, what had Africa been painted as?
It's kind of like, what was it, like tribal?
Tribal, backwards, primitive, all this type place, right? You know, people were cannibalistic, and all these things like that, right? So this is when black people are let go. This is what they think of themselves. All right? 50 years up from slavery, you get the spark in Chicago. So in September 1915, thousands of African Americans traveled to Chicago for the 50th anniversary of emancipation. All right? What do we mean by emancipation? The abolishment of slavery. An overflow crowd of 6,000 to 12,000 people waited outside the Coliseum to view exhibits highlighting black progress since the destruction of slavery. All right? Realization. So inspired by this 3-week celebration, Dr. Carter G. Woodson decided to form an organization to promote the scientific study of black life before leaving Chicago. All right. So September 9th, 1915, at the Wabash YMCA, Woodson and 4 other people, all right, founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. That was the old school. All right, because black people, even in understanding all this stuff that we're going to talk about today, black people have been trying to still struggling to this day. Who are we and what's our name? Like, if you go online now, you see a whole bunch of black people struggling, even in 2026, struggling with who are we and what's our name? All right, and all this stuff here. All right, so they decided to found that. All right, the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. All right, and so we deal with the architect, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, and with Dr. Woodson, one of his great quotes was, "If a race has no history, it has no worthwhile tradition. It becomes a negligible factor in the thoughts of the world." And I want y'all to even think to this day, when people are thinking about geopolitics, things that are going on around the world, we hear about what's going on in Gaza, right? The world is upset about that, right? We even hear about what's going on in Minneapolis here in the United States, right? The world is upset, right? But we hear things that goes on with the basic condition of black people in America, black people throughout the diaspora, black people in Africa. All right. So 100 years later, it becomes a negligible factor in the thought of the world. The world ain't thinking about us. All right. And it stands in danger of being exterminated. All right. So Ms. Williams, she even asked the question, what school is that? And she was like, man, everybody showed up for the international festival. Show up for the international festival, right? Everybody want to be international now, right? You know, so the architect, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. So from Mines to Harvard, I born to formerly enslaved parents in 1875 in New Canton, Virginia. Woodson worked as a sharecropper and a miner to support his family, entering high school later in life, but graduating in less than 2 years. So high school was a lot different. Like back then, if you had the capability to do, they would go ahead and and put you where you need to be. All right. So like here, and I'm sure Mackenzie can attest to this, saying that she's getting ready to graduate. That on some days Mackenzie say, I know how to read, I know how to write. And if I was to leave here today, I would, not like I'm going to lose that. The counselors, come on, bring my diploma to the room, and I'm up out of here. You feel like that. You probably felt like that in 10th grade, right, kids? All right, not in 10th grade, but 11th grade, you probably felt like that, didn't you? So you had all those things. So they pushed him, so you could step in and get where you needed to be and work ahead. All right, and so academic excellence. So he attended Berea College and the University of Chicago before going to Harvard, and then breaking barriers. So in 1912, we often hear about the first Black person to ever earn a PhD from Harvard University. That was W.E.B. Du Bois. Y'all ever heard that? All right, but the second person to ever earn a PhD, a doctorate in psychology from Harvard University was none other than Dr. Carter G. Woodson. All right. And he was the first child of enslaved parents to earn a doctorate in history. All right. Because I want to say that W.E.B. Du Bois, I want to say that his parents were not enslaved. His parents were not enslaved. All right. But he was the first of child of enslaved parents to earn a doctorate in history. All right. And so imagine that your parents had been slaves. Right? Probably couldn't read or what? Right. Received no formal education. And let's understand, some of the education, our first education generally begins where? At home, right? And so, but he goes on to get the highest degree in the land from the most distinguished university in the United States, right? And so, an intellectual insurgency. All right, so the mission to counter miseducation. All right, and so the goal to transfer how Black people viewed themselves and how the world viewed them. Woodson sought to focus public attention on scientific findings of historians rather than opinions, because again, as a Black person, you can have some good thoughts about yourself, right? By this time, Black people coming up from slavery, many of them, finding their way in the world, right? This is the time, by this time, you have the Harlem Renaissance, and all this stuff is beginning to occur, right? I'm sure y'all have seen the images of the Harlem Renaissance, Black, and this is 50 years after slavery, Black people looking good, and all this stuff. Black people came a long way. And you can have a high opinion of yourself, but the world is still, you came from the people that ain't never did that. Y'all we enslaved you here. Y'all were in Africa cannibalizing each other with bone in your nose, swinging from a tree. Right?
Even if we did that, we wouldn't bother nobody. Didn't ask nobody to bother us.
There you go. All right. And so, and you're in a better place because we enslaved you and brought you here, because what would have happened to your people, they just would have ate you in Africa. Right?
Right.
So now you get this, be this fine,
But no, not right.
Yeah. All right, so now you get to be, but that's what they want us to say. That was the answer they want. So now so you had to go through a little slavery to get all this, right? And so, but he wanted to use not opinions, because how many of y'all got general good opinions of yourself, right? But he wanted to use scientific historians to disprove all of these bad things that they said about our people. All right, so the strategy. So he created the Associated Publishers to ensure Black scholarship reached readers without racial gatekeeping. All right, so in other words, the thing is, you want to have your own publishing company, distribute your own literature to make sure no one is coming in with a fine-tooth comb changing everything. All right, and so his text. So in 1933, his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, remains the definitive text on the necessity of this work. All right, and even when you look here at the cover, Miseducation of the Negro, you can see how our minds are locked in this book, on this book cover.
No, I haven't read. I didn't.
Yeah.
Can I borrow it?
Yeah, you borrow it. All right, and so this is great work. All right, and then the philosophy, also as a scholar, Arthur Schoenberg wrote that the American Negro must remake its past in order to make its future. Like in New York, they have the Schoenberg Museum. There in Arturo Schoenberg, he was a black man of Puerto Rican descent. But he did extensive research on Black history, like worldwide. Doing the same thing that Dr. Woodson was doing. Disproving all these myths and everything that they said about our people. So the Nerve Center, 1538 Ninth Street Northwest. All right. So this became the headquarters. It was purchased in 1922. So this home in the Shaw neighborhood of Washington, D.C., served as the Nerve Center for the movement and the Associated Publishers. It's now a National Historic Landmark. And so the Journal of Negro History, was launched in 1916, and it provided a rigorous scholarly platform at a time when mainstream institutions ignored or distorted Black experience. So what they mean by rigorous scholarly platform, so what they mean, so this wasn't like you get on TikTok with no proof of anything, and the world is flat, and now you got a whole bunch of people that follow you. Yeah, the world flat, So it wasn't anything like that. He went and used scholarly platform. Everything was peer reviewed, and everything that he did, to prove what he's saying was the truth. All right, to dispel the images that had been put forth before him. All right, so 1926, the inception week. All right, and so when when Negro History Week pops off, y'all think everybody Black is just down with it? No. Right? This is going to be a long 100 years. All right, to get to where we are now. All right, so the lunch. So in February 1926. Dr. Woodson sent out a press release announcing the first Negro History Week. All right. And so the precursors, so he was a member of Omega Psi Phi. And so he had previously urged his fraternity to create a Negro Achievement Week in 1924. So he had been trying to get this to pop off, before that. And trying to do it through his fraternity, which was already an established group that people respected. All right, so the goal, it was not intended to create a new tradition, all right, but to reform existing ones, because in the current American history, Black people were left out, right? You were slaves, okay, y'all were slaves. That was it. All right? And so the aim was to shift the focus from celebrating individuals to the study of the entire race. All right? So I want you guys to think about that. To shift the focus from celebrating individuals to the study of the entire race. So I want y'all to think about Black History Month, how it's normally carried out now. Is Black History Month how it's carried out now? Do they still primarily just focus on individuals and not the entire race? In Black History Month, you learn about the first Black person, the other Black person, a Black person. Right? Right? You don't learn about the study of the history of the group's history. So why do you think that is? Like, why do you think there's more of a focus on the study of individual Black people than the study of the group's history? I got an idea.
Because they can't find all the people.
They can't find all the people. But also when you study individual history, right? When you go and you break everything down by the individual, right? Now it may be like when you have one person to break through, right? Now look at how they overcame racism and all this stuff. If they did it, you can do it too, right? You know, meanwhile, you got this one Black person who's sitting over here, but the other 90% of Black people still over here sitting in this condition. All right? So oftentimes that's how we get history, right? When we get Black, even now, and he said this is how Black history should not be taught. It should not be taught celebrating one person. And how, I want you to notice how he give it to us, one person. First Black person to ever, Black people, all the Black people, right? That ain't how it should be taught. He said we should be learning our group history, because I want y'all to think about this. When you're in class and you're in your world history class, when you learn just about everyone else's culture, you learn the culture of that group. You learn about the Han Dynasty, right? You learn about the Mogul Empire, right? You don't learn Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Beyonce, right? And if we hear all that, oh man, everything all good then, right? When we hear all that, but no, it's not all good. All right? He said, so he literally made this country recognize and celebrate each year a week in which it studied the effect which the American Negro had upon the life, thought, and action in the U.S. And that comes from W.E.B. Du Bois. And that's the man who we just said was the first Black person to graduate from Harvard with a PhD. Also, he was one of the founders of the NAACP. Mr. W.E.B. Du Bois, he was the one that wrote the book, The Souls of Black Folks, and all that. All right. So why February? I know y'all think, well, February, that's like the wrong month to study Black history and be Black because it's cold. Right? Shoot, it was just cold as I don't know what the other day. That's very un-African. February, right? You know, so to have Black History Month in February, right? And so when we look here, all right, so why February? Tradition and reform. All right, the myth, February was not chosen simply because it's the shortest month, right? That's not the reason, all right? The tradition, since emancipation, Black communities had celebrated these two birthdays separately, all right? And that was the birthday of Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, all right? And so Woodson respected this tradition. So why do you guys think that Black people were celebrating the birthday of Abraham Lincoln?
Because he's the one who signed the right to free the slaves. or abolish or emancipate.
There you go. All right, so Abraham Lincoln becomes known as the great emancipator, right? Because he's the one that signed off on the Emancipation Proclamation that went into effect back on January 1st, 1863. All right? And so in that document, made the Civil War about black people and black people's freedom and all that stuff there. Now, even though a lot of people don't know this, that's the side. What was Abraham Lincoln's big plan to deal with the black people after the war? You want to know?
Freedom.
All right. So he's not free. Freedom? Yes, he's going to give you freedom, Michaela. He's going to give Michaela's great-great-grandparents their freedom. All right. And then after that, I got these boats.
He's gonna send us back.
Yes. You know that place that y'all came from? Well, send you guys back. Thank you for all the work for 246 years. Thank you. Why did that happen?
They can't survive without us.
So 10 days after the Civil War was over with, what happened to Lincoln?
He got shot.
He got shot. All right, so his vice president becomes the vice president, Andrew Johnson. He was not as liked as Lincoln. So that plan was not gone through. All right. And so, but also Frederick Douglass is another reason. Celebrating the birthday of Frederick Douglass on February 12th. And who was Frederick Douglass? Everybody knew who Douglass was? So Douglass, he was the leading black leader during the time of Abraham Lincoln. He was the black who was going to the White House, meeting with Abraham Lincoln, negotiating. Even I think he may have put his finger in Abraham Lincoln's face. Then he got kicked out the White House, and all these things. He's the guy that encouraged black soldiers to join the Union Army and do all this stuff here. All right, so the reform. So Woodson built around these existing dates, but asked the public to extend their study. So he transformed days of blind celebration into a designated time for serious study of history. All right. All right. I lost half my crowd, Mackenzie. All right, so taking history into the classroom. So the tool. All right, so at the urging of Mary McLeod Bethune, so these are these great black figures. So think, y'all know all these people were working together, right? We see them as disconnected people, oftentimes in history. All right, but at the urging of Mary McLeod Bethune, Woodson established the Negro History Bulletin in 1937. And it was designed for teachers and youth, and it simplified scholarly work for the classroom. So what was going into the Journal of Negro History, he was simplifying that, so something that, for the students. So underground education, all right? And this is even important in today's time. So in the segregated South, black teachers often taught Negro history as a supplement, all right? Because you were given a curriculum of what you were supposed to teach, all right? But on the side, what a lot of black teachers were doing at the same time, they were also implementing a lot of black history into it. Where they would get their information from what Dr. Woodson was putting down. All right, so one student recalled a teacher who would hide Woodson's textbook beneath his desk to avoid the principal, all right? And so the result, as black populations grew, the movement entered public school curriculums through the persistence of these educators. So it was the educators, the early educators during this time, sliding this information into the history. And as the curricula developed, it began to include black people. All right, so from the week to the month. So the early adopters, so as early as the 1940s, blacks in West Virginia began celebrating Negro History Month. So why West Virginia? Well, West Virginia in the South, but remember this now, with West Virginia, remember during slavery, they actually broke away from Virginia, all right, because of their opposition to slavery. And that's why West Virginia was formed, all right? And so they began celebrating in the 1940s, all right? Cultural fusion. So in Chicago, you had activists like Frederick Humrabry. He celebrated Negro History Month in the mid 1960s, he began fusing African consciousness with the study of the Black past. So during this time, you have the Black Power movement, and everything is coming out. So as the Black Power movement comes into play, there's this gravitation towards Black and African consciousness. And so Black history, Negro history begins to grow. All right, then the campus momentum. By the late 1960s, young Black intellectuals on college campuses, conscious of their links to Africa and driven by the civil rights movement, so in the 60s. So now you got the civil rights movement coming into play. Also, you got African liberation movements coming into play. All these things beginning to fuse. You got students coming from Africa, and they're becoming students in the United States. So now you have all this stuff here coming in to fuse. All right, and so this replaced Negro History Week with a variant of Black History Month at a quickening pace. So notice this. These are all things. Notice the government ain't did none of this stuff here. None of this stuff was put in by the government. This was all started by Black people, pushed by Black people. During Kwanzaa, there's a term called Kujichagulia. Kujichagulia. Does anyone know what that Swahili word Kujichagulia may mean? It means self-determination. All right, so that's why they did it, because they decided, they woke up one day and said, we're gonna teach our own history, and this is how we're gonna put it out to the people. All right, so it wasn't anything like we're gonna sit here and wait on the schools to teach us, because they knew what? The schools weren't gonna do what?
Say what we actually really did.
There you go. So even if they did teach it, they really wasn't gonna need the real deal, right? So 1976, so understand this, 1926 is when it started. But so 50 years later, you finally get the national recognition. All right. And so the bicentennial and the centennial. So here we have the milestone. So on the 50th anniversary of the first Negro History Week, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History used its influence to institutionalize the shift from a week to a month. All right, and this came with a presidential proclamation on February the 10th, 1976. President Gerald Ford became the first president to officially recognize Black History Month. All right, so it becomes officially recognized. So that means that all the Black people who were scared to celebrate, guess what they can do now? They can start stuff like, you're going to do teach you that Black history, right? So it's like this. So when Dr. Davis is teaching the Black history in the African American Student Union, we're going to get our 3 people. But everybody's going to go to the Black History program to hear the band play and all this stuff like that. All right. And so here, the message: Ford urged citizens to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. All right, so finally, the law. In 1986, Congress passed Public Law 99-244, designating February as National Black History Month. All right, and so 76, first officially recognized by the president. In 1986, it goes into law. It's being recognized. So, and then we get the global context, the African diaspora, beyond the borders of the United States. So people of African descent in the U.S. view their role in history as critical to the development of the world. All right. And so even with, a lot of people don't know this, like the African liberation movement and all these things that happened, right? This stuff coincided with many of those leaders who became the first leaders of Africa when they left colonialism. Many of those leaders have been educated in the United States and had lived among Black Americans. Some went to HBCUs and all that stuff like that, and they went back to Africa to liberate. So a lot of those things go in tandem. So the historical connections, antebellum Black scholars connected their struggle to the Haitian Revolution. All right, and so with the Haitian Revolution, very important because during this particular revolution, this was the first time. So this is not in the United States, but it's in the so-called Americas. All right. So what happens there is that the people who become the Haitians, they defeat the French. And what's important there is that at that time, the most dominant European nation on the planet at that time were the French. And they had the most dominant leader at that time. Anybody know who it was?
Oh,
Napoleon.
I thought that was right.
Yeah.
I just,
All right,
I
so-
just said a lot of me wrong.
And so they were able, so they were able to gain their freedom while France, while France was ruled by the great Napoleon. And when they tried to go and re-enslave them, they still were unsuccessful in doing this. All right. But even to this day, for doing that, the Haitians still pay a great price, for doing that. All right. Then also led to emancipation in Jamaica as well from the British. So commemorations. So some other American emancipation is observed through something called Watch Night. Anybody familiar, heard of Watch Night?
Yes.
All right. So at most, historical like black churches that's like, been around a long time and stuff like that. They have what's known as Watch Night. It's normally held like on New Year's Eve, going into New Year's, right? A lot of people think that, okay, it's just a New Year's Eve party alternative. So you won't go out there and get all drunk over the after food in the streets, right? But Watch Night actually started because on New Year's Eve, many black families would get together. And many of them knew they was getting together for the last time, right? Because they knew that when January the 1st came, something was gonna happen. On that day, debts would get settled, right? So if your master owed somebody else money, he had to pay his debt. All right? And enslaved people were considered to be what? Property. How did you settle your debt?
So your property.
You sold your property. All right? So that's where Watch Night came from. All right? So that would be like the last time you may see your loved one before they get sold off. Then also Jubilee Day and Juneteenth Day, both of them celebrate the end of slavery in the United States. All right. And so with Jubilee Day, that celebrates the end of official slavery. With Juneteenth, that comes, so it was in April 1865 where you had the Civil War ended, right? And slavery supposedly ended. But if I'm a master, ain't no slavery over with, right? So in Texas, the people in Texas, they did not find out until June 19th, 1865. That's where this concept of Juneteenth. So Juneteenth was started in Galveston, Texas, and they took the word June 19th there. All right, so the global reach. Today, Black History Month is observed in various forms across the globe. All right, and so celebrating the impact of the diaspora on modern culture. So now this whole concept, because we got to remember, so not only do we have Black people who were brought here to the United States, but some of those Black people, they were brought to the Caribbean as well from Africa. Some sent to South America from Africa. The largest portion was actually sent to South America. All right, and so the most Black people actually went into what's now Brazil. And even to this day, Brazil has the largest population of Black people in one country other than Nigeria, I believe. All right? So that's how many Black people were transported out of Africa. All right, and then also when you take Africa itself, all of Africa was imperialized or colonized by the Europeans, except two places. Anyone knows what those two places were? So Africa has over 80 countries in it, but only two of them remain free. Well, only one really remained free. It's called Ethiopia. All right. And so the Ethiopians, how were they able to remain free? They got modern weaponry and they fought the Europeans when they came there and tried to take them over. They're the only ones that resisted. The only ones not resisted survived that. And the only other place that was not under enslavement was another place that we now call Liberia. The reason why Liberia is because Liberia was actually formed by the United States. Why? To send these black people back. So that's why Liberia was formed. All right. And even the capital of Liberia is called Monrovia, named after President James Monroe. All right. So the modern insurgency, why it still matters. The challenge today, forces weary of democracy. Y'all see them on TV. All right. They seek to use legislative means and book bans to excise Black history from America's public schools and public culture. All right. The response. So as we approach 250th anniversary of U.S. independence, all right, July 4th, 1776, 250 years. The need then is, the need is greater than ever to tell not just an inclusive history, but an accurate one. All right? So we gotta understand the value. Black history's value is not just its contribution to mainstream narrative, but its resonance in the lives of Black people. And what that means is we still here. Imagine you had ancestors that went through a great ordeal, and you're still here. Not many people would have died. I mean, just imagine people who were just being brought to America in the bottom of a ship. No ventilation, no cleaning, for 90 days, 3 months. How many people died? You descend from people who made it through all that. Then when you got here, your humanity still taken from you. Right? Then if you're a female, things taken away from you. Right? Even the males got taken away from us too.
Don't tell those stories.
Yeah, don't tell you. How they used to break bucks. All right, so the Association for the Study of African American Life and History's Role continues the work of the founder, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, to ensure history is a field of serious study, not just performative celebration. So it's not just getting up and singing that song. Man, he sung a good "We Shall Overcome," but lift your voice and sing. Right? So it's not just clapping, all that, but we need to be learning all this stuff too. All right, because we're at the point where they're trying to, take things out. So as we go through that timeline of transformation, as we get ready to bring things to a close, to remember, in 1915, Carter G. Woodson founds the Association for Negro Life in Chicago. In 1916, he begins publishing the Journal of Negro History. 1926, 10 years later, you're going to get the first Negro History Week. It's going to be celebrated. 1937, we get the Negro History Bulletin, was established to be taught in schools. 1976, we have the expansion to Black History Month, and we get federal recognition. 1986, it becomes a law passed by Congress. Now we get to 2026, guys. We have a century of Black history commemorations. And so understand, this was not started by some other people for Black people. This was started by Black people for Black people, right? And as we study, remember what Carter G. Woodson said, that really we should not be studying individual Black people, because you lose the story then. Man, Tyler Perry, and we get, but what about all of Tyler Perry's cousins who didn't make it, right? The collective group history, right? And so these are the things that he said. So we making the past to make the future. Dr. Woodson passed in 1950, but his movement continues to grow. He would likely smile on all the honest efforts to make Black history a field of serious study. His quote attributed to him: "Those who have no record of what their forebears have accomplished lose the inspiration which comes from the teaching of biography and history." All right, so the class that the students hate the most, going to history class. When you at home, all right, so when you at home and your grandparents and all them get talking, oh, it's time to eat. Old
It
people.
was funny. I didn't want my grandma to leave, but I remember I would ask my great grandma, and she used to always want to talk about picking cotton. I was like, I don't want to hear about picking cotton. Can you tell me something else?
But she didn't remind you, that left a great impact on her. Right? You know, so that's how far we come. And now you ain't got to pick her. So to learn more about the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, we can go to asalh.org to learn more. All right, so we intend to be back here next week. I was expecting to thought the crowd, but there's enough people. It's an intimate setting. But next week we're gonna come back again. All Black History Month. We're gonna try to come with a day. So next week we're gonna come back with Black American ethnogenesis. All right, how we became the people that we are today. All right, and on the 24th, we're gonna come with the Black History trivia quiz, and Michaela says she's taking it all the way to the top. She says she's taking it all the way to the top. All right, so so those gonna be our programming for the month of February. So any questions or concerns as we bring things to a close?
I think I learned some things today.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to come back on that trivia. I ain't gonna lie, I won't beat you. So if I come back, I'll come back, but I probably won't play that one.
All right.
But no, I enjoyed it. I think I did not know the plan was for us to get back on the boat.
Yeah, that was the plan.
After MS.
Thank you for the hard work. Get back on this boat. that was the plan.
I guess I was thinking what that would have looked like.
Yep. That's right.
They can't do nothing without us. So
There you go. So America wouldn't have no soul.
Right.
Without all that.
They wouldn't have a whole lot.
Yep. I know y'all want to get any refreshments, anything
Anything?
before we exit.
No, I don't want to say. I want to burn the book.
Okay.
I actually did.
All right.
I'm gonna check it out.
All right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna bring it back.
And I know my page is kind of crispy in there. They don't, so they kind of old. So it's like when you turn the page, some of the pages might
Oh, that's fine.
yeah, they might pop.
Okay, yeah, so Miss Williams borrowed the book.
Okay.
Bring it back. I'm gonna have it here, and I have the books from I don't say his name either, but he's from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
The
Dr. Juwanza Kunjufu.
that is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say. Yeah, but the parent didn't bring my book back.
Okay. So I remember one.
But I do still have one about trying to
The Black Boys counter conspiracy to destroy the Black Boys.
Yeah, I still have that one, but I had 2 or 3, but
Yeah.
the other ones didn't
Yeah,
come
I
back.
remember when I was in college, Dr. Kunjufu, he came to Mercer where I went to school. He spoke, I was able, I was the only one that I was like answering all the questions and little questions he was put out. Cause I used to watch him. He would be on Teen Summit on BET
I
back in the
love
day.
Teen Summit.
That's back when BET was BET.
Yes, when BET.
So I know he gave me one of his books and autographed it and everything, for me. I know he just passed last year. Yep.
I do love his books. I think I should have known that when I let.
Yep.
And parents like, I'm gonna bring it back. I think I knew he was not gonna bring back.
Yep. That's how that's how I be. All right, thank you guys. Michaela, you sure you don't want anything? You know you want something, Michaela. Come on, Michaela. Dr. Davis, I'm going to the restaurant when I leave here. All right, thank you, Michaela. You coming next week?
I'm not doing the announcements.
The intercom is messed up, so the suggestion is that I got some announcement little things, and we just gonna post them around the school, like on some posters. And so the other girl, Deanna, she said that she would post them around. I don't know if you want to help her post them or whatever. So yeah. So since the intercom is, they wouldn't be able to hear you good. That's why they really don't do the announcements. Yeah, how they have all that static every time they come on. Yeah, so we're not doing it this year. What grade are you? 11th or 12th? You 12th? I could have swore you was in 10th grade. No, I mean, what year were you in my class? Last year or the year before last? Last year or the year before?
Last year was a junior.
Okay, but you weren't in my class. You was in the 10th grade though, right? You was a junior? Okay, all right. Yeah, but so well, I guess we're gonna miss Michaela on the mic this year with the announcements.
You can occasionally call me.
Okay. All right. So we'll see you.